So where we left off is we created a question and inserted it into our database. We created this this dunder string method that will print the ID and the question every time we want to access the object. Let's actually create let's create a def.dunder string method for the choices. Return, should I copy this over? So this string is going to take in the ID as well as the choice text every time this prints. Am I recording? All right. So now let's test or check to see if we have any questions or choices related to our question. So how would I do that? Question.object.choices. .object.choices. No, that doesn't look like it.
Because you have to keep your get question, but maybe if you get a specific object.
All right, we have to get an object?
Yeah.
Right. So let's just ensure, let's get our question. Question.objects. Now how do I get the first element, the first object by like an ID?
Get parentheses, ID equals 1.
Let's see. Cool. Question. Now if I wanted to grab all the choices that are related to that question. That's it?
Yeah.
Or is it .all? There we go. So we don't have any choices related to our questions yet. Now let's create some choices. You know, create choice text equals. I'm just going to copy this over. So I've got this question, ID, and I'm going to create, I'm accessing the choices, and I'm creating a new choice that's related to this question, and I'm giving it the value of choice text, not much, and the votes at 0. All right, I'm going to do that a couple more times. This is another choice related to that question. Instead of not much, we're doing the sky. So we created another choice. That's the first choice we created. This is the second choice we created. I create another one by doing choice equals question.choices.create choice text. Just hacking again, votes 0. So now let's run the question.choices.all and see if there's any choices related to our question. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Now if I do choice.question, grabbing the choice, that question, and there's only one question available.
Yes. So what happens if you have more than one question? Because I didn't
So
see where
you did a little question, so you did little question, not choices.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the reason why this specific question showed up, because this little question, the little.
But upon creating it, you created it using little question dot choices dot create.
That's how it automatically gets assigned.
And little question is an instance of big question.
Yeah, right here. So
do you have to save?
no, I don't think I do. So that's how we create.
This is part of the differences.
Yeah.
Choice and
And all this is in the lecture for today. Like, so I'm gonna exit out of here. So now we're gonna add some more routes because now we got these questions, we got these choices. Now we actually want to use these questions and choices. So we're gonna go to our routes. So we have routes when it goes to polls, then with nothing, it brings up, where'd it go? Right here. But what if we wanted to go to, like, to see the first question?
you have to.
Oh. Hold on. Let me restart this. Juliett Platoon. I'm going to run the server again. Django extensions. Kill this. What's going on? Said Django extensions, not.
You only install Django extensions in the virtual environment.
Ah.
You don't have it installed.
Oh, that's why. Thank you. So the reason why that wasn't working is because Django extension. I wasn't working in a virtual environment in this one, so that's why. CP lectures intro. So CD my site. Now how do I start that virtual environment again?
Source.
Followers.bin.activate. Oh,
The source. Space.
yep. BENV. Bin. Let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. Oh, thank God. Localhost. $8,000. There's nothing there. But if I go to polls, yeah, hello Juliett Platoon. If I want to view like the first something, like the first question. So the reason why that is because we don't have a route yet to this specific one. So where'd my notes go? So in here, so we have to essentially kind of create this a few more times. Now, if I wanted to, I'm going to polls. Now this is a, so if I want to go, I'm going to polls / an integer. So I'm going to integer that, and I'm going to use the question ID because I want to use the question ID. I want that question to show up based off of the URL question ID. So the question ID is going to be here, and I want that question to show up. So I've got question, but instead of views.index, I'm going to do detail. So that means I'm going to create another method in our views called detail. Def detail. Do I just do request? And probably, I'm just going to do this for right now. I'm just going to pass this because I know I'm going to need a detail method. Detail, name, detail. What else do I want? I want the results of this question ID. Like I want the poll results of this question ID. So it's going to take in one backslash, then results. Results. There's going to be another method named results in the views. I'm going to create that. And then I'm going to create another one called vote. So I need to be able to vote on it. So I'm going to create another one method called vote. Vote. Why is that like that? Commas. I love those commas. That works. Ooh. So do I import views? Yeah. We'll see what happens.
It's saying it doesn't have results in the
Yes. Module polls.views has no results. Cool. So let's go and create them in our views. So we have details, our detail. What else do we need? Results and votes.
Vote, yeah.
Can I do vote? Okay. So the detail specifically, I'll need another parameter in here to know to show that specific question. Question ID.
Oh, that's right. That's the first one.
Copy. So I'm going to do this return HTTP response. It's returning this HTTP response. You're looking at question, and it's passing in the parameter right there. Let's see if anything changes. Order. Missed something in the URLs. HTTP response.
You have to pass in the things since it's having to detail take an extra parameter, you have to actually pass that.
Let me see. Oh. What is going on? That's one. Does polls even work? We're at the polls index. Let's see if that works. Why doesn't that work? Django. Let's look at here. Should we start the server? There we go. So yeah, you probably just had to restart the server. That's one of the benefits of always, I guess, always killing your server when you're working in the same thing. Like I should have run the server in here. Then every time I want to make a change, I'll just kill it and then restart it. Cool. So any questions up to this point? So I'm,
Okay. I see. We were also missing the slash after each question.
oh, yes. Shouldn't matter though, but then that makes sense. So question ID, question results. It's going to go to the views and run the results method. You're looking at the results of question. They all take in this question ID parameter. So let's look at the results. You're looking at the results of question 1. I want to see if I just do that, see what happens. Yeah, I don't like that. Singular. There we go. You're voting on question 1. So it's going to these URLs. It's trying to match them up. And then when it matches it, it runs this views.results or views when it comes to the vote, /vote, runs the views-vote method. So we're getting there.
So when the URL matches this requirement, go to this method and views and do whatever it tells you.
Correct. Yep. So it comes into here, the URL, the router, tries to match up anything that matches this. It goes to the views, and then runs the detail method. If it has another / and it matches an ID, like a number, or I guess that's / results, it'll run the results. Any questions? Starting to come together with the routing and rendering different URLs.
So we're writing directly to the page with Python. It's not likely what we'll be doing in the future, though, writing more HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
We're going to have templates and then basically fill in the information on the templates using the Python.
Okay.
So basically, to create a template page using HTML or CSS that says these are the results and has a block there for the different results. And then we'll load. I think we're going towards where we'll load that template in the results question and then pull the information from the database, insert it into the document, and then pass that document as an HTTP response.
Which we're going to get to right now.
Okay.
Sweet. So this is all fine and dandy, but as you said, this is just we're rendering Python straight from the method. And as Ethan mentioned, we're going to be using templates. So right now I'm in my site, LS, but in my Python, let's just back here. In my polls app, I'm going to create another directory called templates. And then within this full directory, I'm going to create another directory called the name of my app, polls. And in here resides my HTML files. I'm going to just do an index.html file. And in here, I'm going to copy this in. Do you remember, was it Jinja, where it can write? I'll just do this by hand. H1, all polls. Let's go back to just the polls because our index are on. So hello world, you're at the polls index. Now in here, if I wanted to write like Python in HTML, how would I do that? You guys kind of remember this a couple weeks ago? I'm gonna copy it over like I did. Yep. So in here, if we want to write Python in line with our HTML, it's that. It's essentially like this. And then anything within here, you can write Python. So with this file, it says if the latest question list for questions in question list. So for if the question list exists, for the question in the question list, render a list question.question text, whatever. So don't worry about that right now. So that's just our HTML file. We'll get back to that.
Sure.
So it's going to come in here when I want to render that HTML file, the index. So in here, we have to do latest question list because it needs a list. And now how do we get all the questions? Here we're going to do we're querying to get all the questions. We can do all, let's do a different one. Let's order by the pub date. Pub underscore date. So it's getting a list of questions, which is there's only one right now, but it's fine. What else do I have to do? So I see question is underlined. Import or from models. So from the models file, import the question object. Right there. Okay. And date equals. So what else do I? So I see I imported render as well. So we're going to return a render. But render takes in a request, and it has to, what is it? It kind of like polls dot index, or was it polls slash index dot HTML. And then here is the data. So it's going to render, it takes in the request, it grabs the actual index.html file from the polls app in the templates. It already knows to look in the templates directory, so this has to be called templates, essentially. Django already knows to look into a templates directory and render whatever HTML file. So it's telling us to, So it's telling us to render this index.html file. And this data has to be a dictionary. Like it has to be an actual dictionary, like or an object. It can't be a ordered or collection or anything like that. Okay. So latest question list. Latest question list. So this is a dictionary now.
Defining the key.
Defining key, and the value is this. I'm passing in the data right here. So let's just, I'm going to comment that out and see what all polls. So right now it's just doing an H1 tag, all polls. If I uncomment that out, it should be an unordered list with a single option or single list element with a link to the polls.question ID. So when I click on that link, it should take me to this polls.question ID. So there's that first question that I had, what is up? If I click on this, it should take me to polls.1, like right there. But I didn't click on it yet, so let's see what happens. There we go. Any questions up to this point?
Text. Yep. If we update the the choices now with the same query that we did with the question. We'd be able to see a list of choices.
Yes, and we will. We're going to get there.
Okay.
So now if I want to see the details, you're looking at question ID. So I think I want to see the list of all those choices. So that's where the detail is going to be coming into. So if I want to do detail, what do I need to do? So I've already got the URL coming into here. It's going to come into detail, or it's going to come into views. So I've got to do something in here. Maybe a question dot equals, what is it? So there's, I have to bring in another built-in method called getObject.404 or getObject or 404. So it's question, takes in argument, or the primary key equals question ID. What is this? So data equals question. So again, it has to, this part has to return, the render has to return dictionary. So here I'm going to create my dictionary. Then in here is where I want to return render. We're taking the request. Now, what file do I need to run? Probably another HTML file, right? Which I haven't created yet. So I'm going to have to create a new file. Let's call it details, or detail.html. Let's just put like a h1 tag in here, detail, for now. So I need polls.detail HTML. Now I need the data again. Thank you. Is this going to work? Go back, refresh, detail. Cool. But we don't want just detail. There. Details about question run, question ID. We've got the question text. And then for choice in question, choices all, we're going to list the choice text. This is all in Python, this part. For the choice in the question, this is a query, question.choices.all. We're going to list the choice and the choice text. I'll go back and refresh. Details about question one. What is up right here? It's H. Then it's looping through this query. Let's print something.
The fact that we're able to see it.
Any questions right now?
So we can see it. We can see the results of the built-in query there.
Right here?
Yeah, as it's looping through the database. What would printing do?
And
if we can already see kind of the results of the
well, I don't know if you can print in an HTML file.
Oh, okay.
The console log, you'd have to create like a script.
Oh, I thought that's what you were saying just now. So let's print.
Oh, no. I was thinking about it, then I just.
Oh, okay.
Because this whole HTML document isn't complete, essentially. It doesn't have a head or a body or anything like that. So everyone, let's see what just happened.
Okay.
We created this views that goes straight to the polls. So we come to here. The first enter is actually in the My site page. It goes to URLs. It matches polls, includes polls.urls. So it goes to the polls.urls. And the first one is here because there's nothing. So it's running this index, which grabs all the publications of the objects, or grabs all the questions and orders them by the publication date. I think that's in reverse. And then it's making a dictionary of the latest question list. Now it's rendering this polls.index. So it's coming here, this polls.index, that HTML file. And if the latest question list exists for the question in the latest question list, create a list item with a link, polls, question.id. Then it just lists or shows the question text. So when I click on that, we're going to this path now. So it's grabbing the question ID. So we have the question ID, list every single question ID. So goes back to the URLs. So now we're on question ID. We'll go to views, detail, and it runs this get object or 404. So if there isn't an object, it throws a 404. We got this question ID, which comes from this part right here, the URL. And it grabs that question ID, sets it to a variable, create a dictionary. Then we render that polls, that detail, by passing the data into here, which is a question ID, question.question text. Then for the choice, in the question.choices.all, we render the choice, that choice text.
That N4 language is different than what I've seen before.
Yeah, I think that's just for, is it Jinja? I think so. But I could be wrong. But yeah, yeah. All right. We're going to write some method helpers, or helper methods. Let's see.
What's a helper?
It helps you just write your code faster that you're going to be reusing a lot. So in our polls.url, the polls, we added this app name for polls. So instead of hard coding this URL, right here, we don't need to do that anymore. I'm going to replace it with this text. So this is Python now. We have the URL polls detail question ID. So in our URLs file, we did this app polls.app name, polls.detail, where is it? Polls detail. And the reason why we do this is because there can be other apps within our application that have detail. It utilizes the detail method. So we want to make sure that it looks at the polls detail method. That's why we do that. Let's see if that worked. Yeah. So it still routes the same. It's just like to keep it. It's because when we have our app expands, there may be another method called polls or another another web HTML file called detail.
I got you. But in the
Or, I'm
previous URL, it's just giving the whole path. Whereas this is kind of like a key value pair that refers to the directory. Or converts like a key value pair to the path.
There's a key value pair.
Like what's different? What's the benefit of this versus what you have?
Scalability, because when our app, sorry, I misspoke before. The polls.detail, make sure that because there might be another detail method being created somewhere in the application.
But wasn't the previous link also pointing to polls, the href? Polls dot detail? Wasn't it in the
Like that?
Yeah, see, it still has polls there, so it's still.
That's just in the URL.
Just. Yeah, I'll ask later about this. I'm having a little trouble.
It's okay. Yeah, and we'll go into detail later offline. You guys want to take a 5-minute break?
Yep, sure. A little brain.
All right. Be back at 10:39.